Good world. It is your boy Pat the Designer back at it again, joined by a special guest in the building. Many of you may know him from the DaWindyCity Productions as the voice behind all those dope videos that come out, and the dude that dropped like all the best like highlight clips of people coming in, or the Justin Fields one is one of my all-time favorite. Rashab is in the building from the DaWindyCity Productions, creator of the DaWindyCity Productions. Bro, what's going on?
Not much, man. Thanks for having me on. Been watching
Absolutely.
you grow on YouTube lately, so it's cool to be on finally.
Man, I like we were talking about before. I want to work with a lot more Chicago content creators. You're one of the best in the game on YouTube right now. So it's
Thank
an
you.
honor to have you on the show, man. I appreciate you for pulling up. Let's
No
get into
problem.
it, man. Let's talk about our Bears, man. I mean, we've seen a lot of off-season changes come into play. I mean, from Matt Nagy to Ryan Pace to Matt Eberflus to Ryan Poles, not exactly the changes we were hoping for right away, but hopefully, we feel good about them by the end of it. Let's start there, dog. How do you feel about the offseason changes, front office wise, coaching wise? Do you feel like this is the combination that's going to get this thing done?
I hope so, man. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell because you're
Yeah,
always optimistic about these things when they first happen. Like when we first hired Matt Nagy, I was always optimistic about that too, right? Because we got the
right.
new offensive mind from Kansas City, the guy that molded Patrick Mahomes, the guy that helped the Kansas City offense look that amazing. So I'm pretty much always optimistic about stuff happening with the Bears at first. So you kind of have to wait and see how this is going to go out. We're gonna have to wait at least 2 or 3 years before we actually find out if Eberflus is a good coach, if
Yeah,
Poles is a good GM. But on paper, I think there's a lot to be excited about, right? Because even though, for example, Eberflus wasn't the main guy that we all wanted, he's like a defensive mind. I would say that 90% of Bears fans probably wanted a combination of either, Dable or Byron Leftwich or maybe even
yeah,
Jim Harbaugh. So we didn't get the guy we exactly wanted. But if you look at his interview, man, a couple days ago, his press conference, like there's a lot of stuff to like in him. He's a good leader. He's a good, you know, um, molder of football players, and that's kind
yeah,
of the leader we need on this football team, right? Because Matt Nagy, as a pure, offensive mind, he wasn't that good, and even as a leader of men down the stretch, like people weren't believing in his message anymore. So getting a guy that's going to be the head coach of the entire football team, not just pay attention to the offense, but pay attention to every side of the team, not call plays either, so it's going to have more of an impact on the entire team besides just one side. I think that's pretty good. Like Eberflus, I like him as a overall coach.
yeah,
He's pretty witty, pretty nice, and I think he can be good. And then going to Ryan Poles, it's coming from a organization in Kansas City who's had so much success lately, the
yeah.
last like 5, 6+ years. So Poles I'm actually higher on than Eberflus because Poles he's been a big part of that offensive success, like drafting guys like Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, all of that. So Poles I'm pretty high on. Eberflus I'm kind of iffy, but Eberflus has built like a pretty good staff so far. So I think I think it can work out. I'm pretty optimistic so far.
So that's the interesting part to me, right? Because like that was the scary part to me. But I'm fine with like Eberflus came in, and to me, I was like, all right, I don't really know if he can be a head coach. Like, let's see what kind of staff he puts together because we've seen good head coaches not be good when they couldn't figure out how to replace the guy that they originally put in place. I look at what happened down with Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn lost Kyle Shanahan, didn't promote Matt LaFleur, which is a big loss on his part. And that offense was never the same again. They weren't able to ever replicate what they did to get back to the Super Bowl. And the defense started to fall apart as a regard of that. I mean, Luke Getzey in the building. We got a couple of guys on the offensive side of the ball that have been there before, been coaching for a while, but not exactly calling plays. Do
Mm-hmm.
you feel good? Even on the defensive side, we got Allen Williams in there. I mean, do you feel good about these guys coming in and having to not only begin their play calling career with the Chicago Bears, but essentially we're going through the same cycle of a bunch of rookies again?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, with the defense, I'm not that concerned because Alan Williams has already called plays in the past with the Vikings. Like, it went pretty well his
That's
first
true.
year.
That's true. Yeah.
I think it was 2012, right? I
Yep.
mean, they had like a top 15 off or top 15 defense that year. They regressed the following year, so he got fired. But
Yeah.
he has some experience calling plays, so I'm not worried about the defense per se. But with the offense, yeah, like you mentioned, it's kind of worrisome because just like with Matt Nagy, like we're getting a guy in here that hasn't called plays really before, but I will say that like every coach starts somewhere, right? So like even some of the smartest
Facts.
minds in the NFL, like at one point they were a first time play caller, and we're getting a guy from the Shanahan tree, a guy that also coached under Joe Moorhead, which I don't know if you knew, but Justin Fields actually committed to Penn State to play with Joe Moorhead while he was offensive coordinator there, and then while Joe Moorhead like
Mm.
left, he decommitted from Penn State. So Justin Fields already kind of wanted to play in this style of offense. So I think the style of offense is going to be successful. It's going to be built around Justin Fields, but we'll have to see with the play caller because he is, like you said, a first time play caller. So
The best part I think the Bears have going for them right now is that the guy in the building that's making the calls right now is alignment. The guy that's drafting, that's making these shots called, even the assistant he goes out and gets. They understand that the most important thing for Justin Fields' development is to keep him off his butt, which is
mhm.
something that I feel like Ryan Pace never got. You missed on Mitch, maybe you drafted high and you drafted Mitch too high. I'm not a Mitch guy, but I think if you protect him, he's not run out of the city with, oh my God, we can't stand this guy.
Mm.
He's probably let go after that last year. Like, he could have been serviceable, but you needed something better. And I just think Ryan Pace did an awful job there. I think Poles has a job ahead of him. Do you think, in your opinion, would you like to see Tevin Jenkins continue to develop there, or would you rather see the lineman go out and pay somebody to do that left tackle job and maybe move Tevin back to right where he's comfortable and being an injury prone guy right now at the beginning?
Mm.
Um, Maybe because he's not doing something new to him, he's able to stay healthy.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, going into last year's draft, Tevin Jenkins was like one of my draft crushes. Like, I really wanted us to draft that guy. So I was really excited when Ryan Pace traded up
Right.
for him. And, obviously things weren't the best at first. Like, he got injured and then he didn't start playing until like almost the end of the season. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of concerns obviously with his health, with his back, because a back issue is something you don't want to like mess with. And it's pretty serious.
Especially when you get hit every play.
Yeah, 100%, dude. So, if Tevin isn't healthy, like, going into this offseason, I think he's fully healthy, but if they have any doubts at all about his health, then yes, I would 100% invest in the best left tackle you possibly can. But I will say, though, also that Larry Borom showed a lot of promise playing at right tackle. Like, he had some of the best games out of any rookie offensive lineman last year playing at right tackle. He had some rough games too, but for the majority, it was like a pretty solid rookie season. So, I kind of don't want to just throw away Larry Borom from playing tackle because I mean I've seen that people kind of want to put him at guard, but
Yeah.
tackle is a much more important position. If you have a guy that's already playing somewhat well there, you
Yeah.
don't want to like necessarily move him to guard. So I think as of now, I would be okay with going into next season with Tevin at left tackle, Larry at right tackle. But if
Yeah.
they have any concerns at all about Tevin's health, then yes, I would get the best left tackle you can.
I think the interesting thing that to me is that when we're looking at the pieces we have on this roster, there's pieces on here that we probably feel good about being from Chicago, where we're like, yeah, he's gonna be good. He's gonna be a nice player. We got that. But when the guys that are up in the building look at it, I feel like they don't look at it that way. I heard Bill Polian on Waddle and Sylvie breaking down how he watched this team and he said, you've got 7 players that you probably should keep.
Right.
There's a long way to go with this roster. There's not a lot of capital on this team draft wise. And so to me, like, that's the scariest part to me coming into this season. You're not going to get the opportunity. These young guys, like, at a minimum, we can say Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy got the opportunity to at least learn while things were happening. Now, Nagy learned, it seems, nothing. Um, But Pace at least kind of seemed to learn certain things about the job that can definitely help him in his next endeavor. There really isn't that opportunity here for Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. Like, you're kind of coming into a situation where, hey, listen, we've got this quarterback in the building that we think is a franchise quarterback. You have to figure him out right away. Hey, we also have this roster that we think has some pieces on it, and you have to turn it over with, what do we have, 5 draft picks coming into this season at the moment? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a tough task to handle. How do you think they handle that starting off year one, day one, right now? You know what I'm saying? Where
Yeah.
it's go time from day one. You don't have that opportunity really to learn on the job because the clock's ticking on Justin.
Yeah, I mean, trading back could be an option. Trading back from pick number 39 to,
Yeah,
I don't know, in the 40s and the 50s to get maybe an extra third rounder, or fourth rounder, something like that. So I think Ryan Poles talked about how there's like a lot of different ways to acquire draft capital. He didn't like specifically say trading back in the draft, but that's one avenue.
yeah,
Another avenue could be trading players, veterans like, I don't know, maybe a Robert Quinn could be on the trading block. I know us Bears fans are pretty high on him. He's coming off like a really good season, but
yeah,
you don't win games in this league with defense anymore, right? Like you need those picks, you need those investments on the offense. So, maybe Robert Quinn could be traded for something. He probably has pretty high value right now because he's coming off, almost like a 19 sack season. So some guys on the defense might be on the trade block. On the offense, I can't think of anybody with that much trade value besides maybe Montgomery. I mean, I don't know though,
yeah,
because teams don't trade anything for draft pick for running backs anymore, right? Like we only got a 6 for Jordan Howard after he's coming off like some really good years. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean, like you said, there's not that many ways of acquiring draft picks. So I think it might be like a 2-year process, right? Like I know everybody wants this to be a 1-year thing where we rebuild completely this year, have a great team this following year and go to the Super Bowl, but that's probably not very realistic. So I think it's going to be more of like a 2-year thing where we take the first year to kind of assess where roster is at, who needs to stay long term, who needs to go, and hopefully be competitive enough for us, for a playoff spot, maybe like the 7th seed, maybe 6th seed. But I'm
yeah.
kind of thinking that like 2023 will be when the main contention happens for a team. Like you can't expect everything to change right away, really, unless Justin Fields is like flat out amazing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, I mean, Joe Burrow went to the Super Bowl in his second year, so I guess anything is possible. But
Dude, he's so, like, I just watched Joe Burrow and I'm just like,
yeah,
why is
it's
he this
crazy.
good? Like,
I don't know, dude. I mean, it doesn't make any sense because I don't think Zach Taylor is a good coach, and they don't have a good offensive line either. So
dog, I don't. I feel, but you know what? This is what I'll say. Like, and I get why Bears fans feel this way. I feel that way about the Bengals, and I'm hoping that the Bears are the same. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, like, other than Zach Taylor, I don't know who's coaching that team. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I thought about it. I was like I know now because I went and looked them up. But I was like, yo, who's like the OC and the DC of this team? Like, who's putting this thing together? Why are they winning?
Seriously, it makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, I think we all thought that the Bengals would be like a first round exit or maybe a second round exit. So it's,
Yeah.
I mean, some players are just that special to the point where like they carry your team, and Joe Burrow is obviously one of those players, and we hope Justin Fields is too.
Dog, and that's the, it's like you said, to me now, I would push back on defense doesn't get you those championships anymore because I think, let's be real, the Rams are bailing out Matthew Stafford a lot. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah,
If
agree.
they're gonna win this Super Bowl, it's gonna be on the back of Aaron Donald dominating. Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd dominating Joe Burrow on the other side. So I would push back a little bit on that, but the one thing I will say is I have said during this season I'm willing to risk some of the pieces on defense maybe being gone, maybe not coming back, if it means that I have the cash to develop this offense quicker. And what I mean by that is I don't think you can get rid of Roquan. I think
No.
Jalen Johnson may be too early in his career to give up on.
Hmm.
And Eddie Jackson, to me, could absolutely be on the chopping block for this Bears team. Or like you said, Robert Quinn. I don't think anybody's going to take max money because that dead cap hit is ridiculous. But I wouldn't be like, would you be opposed to seeing some of those bigger names possibly not be here. And yeah, your defense is going to take a step back, but you're hoping that when you're going to a 4-3, you're going back to the defense that got us to the Super Bowl. They're able to find those guys that they can kind of just plug in and keep it going along. And maybe you do have that Bengals reset because their defense was terrible when they played us, and they slowly got it together by the end of the season. Would you be fine with seeing some of those defensive pieces gone if it meant adding to the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I'd be totally fine with that, man. I mean, because if you look around the NFL, I know I said that defense doesn't win championships anymore. I should rephrase that. I kind of mean that offense is more of the reason why you would win a
Okay.
championship, right? Like,
Yeah.
look at all the teams in the NFL right now. Like Joe Burrow going to the Super Bowl, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He has
Yeah.
stacked receivers all across the board. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Same with Matt Stafford. He has so many weapons all over the field. Odell
Yeah.
Beckham was like their number 2 receiver, where he'd be a number 1 in like a different, in a variety of different places. So I think that getting the weapons for Justin Fields, getting the offensive line, getting the maybe tight end if you want to overhaul the tight end position, like that's more important than continue to develop the defense, because we've
Yeah.
been a defensive minded team my entire freaking life, man. It's gotten us nowhere really, right? Like 2006 was the closest we've came, and Rex Grossman screwed that up for us. So I'd be okay with getting rid of anybody, man. It's gonna hurt at
Yeah.
first, but offense should definitely be the priority for Ryan Poles, and I think it will be.
Yeah, I think that you've got a good mix of guys on this team. The one thing I liked was that the thing the Bears have always had is you've got two guys that are on the same side of the ball thinking the same way. Yeah, Jerry Angelo goes out and he gets Jay Cutler, but for the most part, there was never any like he couldn't find anybody to protect Jay on the left side. You didn't have those guys that could figure out how to put this offense together to make it work. And then on the coaching side, you didn't have a coach for the most time that could figure out how to make the other side of the ball work. Um, I think for the first time, us having an offensive minded guy in the front office, especially a lineman, and a defensive minded guy on the field, there'll be that good mesh. That's at least what I'm hoping. There'll be that good mesh of, hey, listen, I like this guy. I think this guy is good for this side. You like that guy. You think that guy's good. Let's see who ranks higher. I think going into the draft, this will probably be the best mix that we've had of guys looking at each side of the ball instead of just, well, this is Chicago. We've got to do it through the defense because that's the way that it's done. You
Yeah, I
know,
totally
like,
agree, man. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't had an offensive minded general manager in like a while. Like Ryan Pace was from the
yeah,
defensive side of the football. He played, I think, defensive end in college, and he drafted mainly defensive players and like invested a lot of money into the defense. And Ryan Poles is the complete opposite of that. Coming from the Kansas City Chiefs, they invest a lot in their offense, obviously. So I think it will be a welcome change for sure.
later in the draft, what do you expect from Ryan Poles, seeing as how Kansas City essentially never drafted high? Like, that was one of the exciting things for me, seeing him come here. I was like, well, if anybody's going to fix this, it's going to be the dude that hasn't had a high first round draft pick since he's pretty much, you know what I'm saying? Since he's been there for a while because they've won a lot.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? So I
yeah,
I, I think that on that side of the ball, like that's going to be something draft wise that Ryan Poles is going to excel at. And I feel like that's the part Bears fans wanted to keep pace for. Like there's
oh
a group of Bears fans that definitely wanted to keep pace because they were like,
yeah,
he hits in the fifth round.
yeah,
It's great.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
the
I mean,
first.
yeah. I mean, yeah, if he gets hits in the first and second round with whatever picks we have, I know this year we don't have a first round pick, but
Yeah,
if he gets good hit in the second round, if he gets, some of those mid round picks as well, which Pace used to hit on,
yeah,
he'd already be an upgrade over Ryan Pace, because Pace hasn't hit on many second rounders in the past. I know
yeah.
recently he has with like Jalen Johnson, but he also picked Cole Kmet, which like Bears fans are pretty split on. So I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Like, we haven't seen Ryan Poles pick players himself.
Yeah.
He's been part of like a suggestion team, like suggesting to the GM, suggesting to, I think it's Brett Veach, who to
Mhm.
pick. So it might be like a learning process. So I don't know if it's gonna be like amazing at first, but I'm hoping it will be. So I
Do
guess we'll have
you
to wait and
think, even with as optimistic as we are, do you think that we're moving in the right direction here? Or are we? Because there's a lot of fans, and I get it. First off, bringing in Matt and Ryan, you just brought back deja vu, so they're bogus for that.
see.
And George, I don't know if you watched the press conference. We did it live here. George acting like he never realized that moment, and was just like, oh, huh, cute. I was like, I think he's serious. I
Yeah.
think he really didn't get it until right now. Uh, we're a sad bunch.
Yeah.
I think. Do you think that we're going in the right direction, taking the right steps to move, at least at a minimum, organizationally? Or do you think, like a lot of people think, that we're in the exact same spot we were in when we redid this thing in 2015?
No, like I truly feel like we are moving the right direction. I know I'm pretty optimistic usually, but
Yeah,
this time it just feels kind of different because I mean, like you mentioned, that mix between offensive minded general manager and like defensive minded head coach, and also a head coach that wants to coach the entire football team, not just like a guy like Mark Trestman or Matt Nagy that wants to only coach the
yeah,
offense, not just a guy like John Fox that wants to only coach the defense. We're getting a guy that wants to be like a CEO type of this team, which maybe like a Mike Tomlin type, where you just hire coordinators and
yeah,
have them do all the coordinating, play calling duties. So I think from a coaching perspective, Matt Eberflus could be potentially a good coach. And then I'm also a big fan of Ryan Poles, man. Like the success he's had with the Kansas City Chiefs,
yeah.
building some of the best offenses in the NFL. That's the one place where the Bears have struggled so much their entire, history. So I believe a lot in Justin Fields. He's like by far one of my favorite. I'm definitely my favorite draft pick ever the Bears have ever made. So if Justin Fields becomes a great quarterback, I think we'll be in solid hands.
Favorite draft pick ever? That's a good one. I've never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, like who else would you choose for that? Like we haven't had.
I've,
I mean,
n-
we've
I,
had some good defensive players, but
yeah, I don't know if I've ever been excited. Like I lost my mind when we got Justin Fields. I think you might be right. I don't know if I've ever gotten excited
same
about a
here, dude.
draft pick.
Last time we picked a quarterback that high was obviously 2017. I was pissed
I
out
was
of my
not
mind.
excited.
I was not excited either.
I was
I tried to talk
confused.
dude, I tried to talk myself into the next like 2 years, but it did not happen. Like,
Yeah, I was just confused when they said Mitch Trubisky. Um, wow, that's a good one. I got to sit down and think about that. You might be right. This might be granted I wasn't doing a YouTube channel then, but this might
mhm.
be the most excited I've been about a pick in a while. That might be why I'm so invested and always defending them. Uh, I mean, eh, when I look at this team, dog, and I come into it, I try to keep myself tempered, but I'm kind of like you, where I feel like it's different. Like it felt like Ryan Pace walked in, or Ryan, right? No, not him. Ryan Poles walked into the room. I swear they just got these guys so they could save one, putting name tags on the door. They were just like,
Seriously.
no, it's half off. We just changed the last name. We're good. When they got Ryan Poles into the building, it seemed like he instantly came in, was like, "Who's your guy? Who's your guy? You guys suck. We're not going with that guy. I'm
Yeah.
going with my guy, Eberflus."
Oh yeah.
It also feels like they're kind of doing that with the coaching, with how they're staffing this thing out, with how they're building out the front office. It feels different, and I think for us, that is the thing as Bears fans. Like different is good for us because the same has sucked.
Yeah.
Like we've been the same for like if you look at like even going back, like my dad always talks about, oh, the Bears in the 60s, that was our dominance. It's like, yeah, but you didn't win a playoff game till 84. Like it was
Right.
69 to 84. There was not so like that's been our franchise the entire time. So this does feel different. I mean, when you're looking at how they're going to, I mean, lining up players on the field, what's going to get done, like it all feels like this is not how the Bears have operated before, don't you think?
Definitely agree. And I mean, like you said, it's mainly because of Justin Fields. Like, I don't think we've ever had a quarterback with this much potential in our entire lives.
Yeah.
Last one was probably Jay Cutler. And even Jay Cutler, like, I wasn't as excited about him as I was with Justin Fields. So, all the changes we're making in the organization, getting offensive minded guy in Ryan Poles, I think Bears fans should be excited. I know they're still like kind of hesitant because we've been through this so many times, but
Yeah.
it feels different, man. Like that might just be us being too optimistic, but it definitely feels a little bit different.
Man, it's crazy looking at this team now, especially just looking at the roster and thinking like I you can't think that at any point any Bears fan was like, no, yeah, let's get rid of some of the defensive players. Like when we're talking about that, like, who's the guys on this team that you think have to stay? Of course, Justin's on his rookie deal.
Mm,
Darnell's still on his rookie deal, but like, Do you try to bring back an A-Rob with a new regime? Do you bring back Roquan Smith knowing that you're going to have to pay him the world to stay here? Do you know, like those guys that you're going to have to bring back, like Bears fans keep saying, we've got a ton of cap space. There's no one signed. Like,
Yeah.
who are the guys that you're zeroing in on to bring
Mhm.
back into the room?
Well, definitely Roquan Smith, just because he's like the leader now of the entire defense, and
Yeah.
having a linebacker like him, especially in Matt Eberflus's scheme, which requires more linebackers now, 4-3 defense. You know, you need a guy that can go side to side cover. So I think Roquan has to be a necessity for us because without him, like, what is the middle of our defense? We don't have any other guy in there to like kind of be the quarterback of our defense. So even though it's
Yeah.
going to cost a crazy amount of money, I think it's going to be like 20 million per year,
It's gonna
something
be
like
dumb.
that, probably. I
It's
mean,
gonna
I
be
think
dumb.
we have to do it, dude, because we don't have any other option unless we like hit it big this year in the
Yeah.
draft. So Roquan, I would say, is staying. Um, but besides him on the defense, like you said, Jalen Johnson is staying. Um, Khalil Mack, because of his dead cap hit, like we can't trade him, most likely. But aside from those three, like I'd be cool with moving off with anybody else if they really want to. Like I'm not gonna be going crazy if we get rid of anybody else. Like
Yeah.
I like Eddie Jackson personally, but if we can find another safety, then I guess go for it. Like I'm gonna trust Ryan Poles at first before we see the results in the field, just because he's new here and
Yeah.
why not be optimistic? So those three on the defense, and then for the offense, um, I don't know about Allen Robinson, man, because it feels like he doesn't want to be here, right? I know last year, like Matt Nagy was.
Was it just
Oh,
Nagy though? You know what I'm saying?
I
Was it
don't know.
just Nagy?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like Nagy heavily limited his success in offense, obviously. Like he limited everyone's success on offense, but
Yeah.
even like down the stretch, like even his wife was posting stuff on like Instagram about like
I
not
saw
liking,
that.
yeah, not liking Soldier Field and all that. So I don't know where his head is at right now. We'll have to like see what he does in a couple months whenever free agency starts. But personally, I don't think he's coming back. I think he's going somewhere else to, get the bag. So
Yeah.
A-Rob probably gone. And then on the offensive line, like aside from Tevin and
Yeah.
Larry Borum, they're only staying because they're on rookie deals and they show potential. But aside from them, anyone could be going, dude. Sam Mustipher sucks. James Daniels, he's good, but he's gonna get a bag this offseason, which I don't know if
Yeah.
we can afford. And then Cody Whiter is like iffy because his contract is gonna be hard to move off of, but he also wasn't that good last season. So I don't know, man. Like
As long as Jermaine Ifedi's gone. As
he's
long
100% gone, dude. He is
as
100% gone.
Jermaine Ifedi, dog, I
Can't stand him either.
I can't stand when he went over. There's I couldn't stand him the entire time.
Yeah.
But when Justin got knocked down, and granted, it wasn't a penalty, but when he got knocked down and Tevin Jenkins went over there to say, like, don't push my quarterback over.
Mm-hmm.
And Ifedi came over and started yelling at Jenkins. I was like, cut him tonight.
Seriously, dude.
This dude sucks. He's a human turnstile.
He was captain the next week too. Like Matt Nagy made him captain the next week against Seattle.
No, he was captain the next week. Like the one thing oh my God, I hate Jermaine Ifedi so much. Hate's a strong word. Relax, Pat.
Yeah.
It's football. I dislike how Jermaine Ifedi plays so much.
Yeah. There's no chance he's staying, dude, because I don't know if you saw Ryan Poles like in his press conference, or I think it was like an interview. He
Yeah.
talked about how he needs more people on this line that actually like fight for their quarterback, that aren't gonna be like, oh, like you can hit my quarterback, I'm not gonna do anything about it. So
Hey, the second I saw that, I was like, cut.
yeah, he's gone.
But then, I mean, at the same time, like I'm concerned because like, can you reverse what these guys have learned? So James Daniels came up under that. You know what I'm saying? James Daniels came up as okay, don't make a mistake, don't be stupid, don't fight here, don't do this. Like he was drafted by that regime. So all he knows is that, like, are you going to be able to go to James Daniels and be like, hey, no, if somebody knocks your quarterback, you get in their face. You know what I'm saying? Like, the beginning of his NFL career is that, and technically, like what he does on the field is great. When he's healthy, when he's out there, he's a great lineman. But the mindset there, if there's only one guy doing it, I mean, I guess if you make him the Tevin the captain at some point next year, but can you put that dog into guys that don't have it right now? You know what I'm saying? Can you reteach these young guys that didn't have it how to have it moving forward, because we've got a lot of capital in what's on the field. It's
Yeah.
mostly draft picks at this point.
That's a good question, and I don't know, man, because like you either have it or you don't. Like I feel like people are just born with it. You can't
Yeah.
learn it per se. You can't learn to be like a nasty, tough, physical person. Tevin
Yeah.
Jenkins was already that way his entire football career. Like back in Oklahoma State, he was the same person, like getting in
Yeah.
people's faces. Larry Borum to some extent too. He was like pretty physical in at Missouri. So I don't know. Like it depends on like who the offense. We already have an offensive line coach, Chris Morgan, and he
Yeah.
kind of teaches this nastiness in his guys too. Like I heard, I think it was a former player. Somebody said that this coach, his lines are always like really physical, really mean. Like they're all bullies. So we'll see. I mean, if they can teach that in James Daniels, but I don't think that's gonna come out of nowhere. Like you probably have to get other guys on the line that fit that mindset.
It's yeah, and that's the part that's interesting, because to me it's like we're really talking about two rookies are the only thing we might keep.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like that's a scary thing. I mean, I guess they're not rookies anymore, but technically Tevin played what, 5 games?
5 games, something like that.
He's a rookie.
Yeah.
You know, Borum was in there, but then he had concussion issues. Had a stroke right there myself. Kind of came back and was still okay, up and down, but had rookie production. So, like, we're talking about keeping two rookies to protect our young quarterback, who's also trying to figure out what the heck's going on back there. I mean,
That's
with what we know we have, what's your expectation for next season? Do you expect us to be higher than 6-11 this year? Good grief, higher than 6-11? Do you expect us to be kind of right at that same spot? What are your thoughts on coming into next season? Just knowing what we have now, way too early prediction.
Yeah, I mean, without seeing what we do in free agency and the draft, it's kind of hard to like predict what's going to happen next year. But
Yeah,
I guess like on the optimistic end, I'm still thinking we could make the playoffs as like a 7 seed or something like that because dude, the NFC is just so weak next year. Right? Like Tom Brady left, Aaron Rodgers might be traded soon. If Aaron Rodgers gets traded, we could have a couple games against the Packers. Like we could win against Jordan Love. He sucks. I know the rest of the Packers team is pretty decent, but I don't think they're going to win many games without Aaron Rodgers. So I guess it depends on like what else happens in the NFC. Like we have an opportunity where a lot of our games next year are also like pretty easy. Like we go up against the NFC East and like I think NFC South as well. So
yeah, third place schedule essentially.
yeah. So it's definitely possible on the optimistic end, but on the negative, on the pessimistic end, I think we might, it's still possible we could be around here next year because
Yeah.
there's a lot of holes to fill.
Is here an improvement though? You know what I'm saying? Like Justin with a training camp. Like it depends on what here is. If it's Justin looking like he looked this season, here's not
Oh
good
yeah.
because we got a lot of question marks. But if it's Justin improving, if it's, we find a number one receiver, we find an offensive line by some stretch of the imagination, but they're just young and losing, and you're implementing something new. Like I think I wouldn't be mad if we're 6-11 again, depending on what it is. You know what I'm saying? Depending on if we're seeing improvement.
I will say, like, if our offense is amazing next year, like carrying our team to these wins, and our defense sucks, I will not be mad at all because then that means we're actually moving forward towards something good, something that can win a Super Bowl eventually if we fix up
Yeah,
our defense. But if it's the same as last year, where our defense is like the only reason why we're winning games, why we're even in games, then that would be a failure of a season. So it really depends on like Justin Fields, his development, how the offense is developing, and
yeah.
what the overall team is looking like too.
I agree, dog. We got a long off season ahead of us, man. But at a minimum, we got the Windy City Productions dropping content all the time. The Windy City Breeze also dropping content all the time. Get in tune with both of us, man. Let them know where they can find you at, dog. Let them know what's going on, what you have coming up, man.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you already subscribed to my YouTube channel, but if you're not, it's the Windy City Productions on YouTube. If you want my social media handles, they're all in my descriptions. And yeah, I've just been making videos on like all the hirings the Bears have been doing lately. I'll probably have highlight videos coming out for whatever draft picks the Bears make, whoever we sign in free agency. So if you want, highlight reels, analysis, stuff like that, definitely be sure to subscribe to my channel. But thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely, dog. Absolutely. We got to do it again. Got to get it during the season.
100%. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We getting once we got the studio finished, we'll have you in the studio as well. You know what I'm
Sounds
saying?
good.
Long as Omarion's calmed down. Uh, hey, we appreciate
Hopefully.
y'all for tuning in and rocking with us, man. We want to know how you guys feel about your Bears coming into this season. Do you think that the Bears are moving in the right direction? That's the question on the table. Nobody knows. We really don't know. I don't think Floose knows. It's gonna be interesting. By the way, what we going Floose as a nickname? We doing that? It
Loose.
sounds
Yeah. I like it.
I don't know. A lot of flus going on around here. I don't know. But no, man, like the video, subscribe to the page as always. Drop your comments in the description below. I'll be down there talking with you, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and rocking with us for another one. It's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Chicago, y'all stay safe out there. For more Bears content, check out the Windy City over here. Check out the Windy City Productions or check the link in the description below. Y'all stay safe out there, man. Peace.